What if I told you there's a letter with private instructions from the Virgin that few have dared to read? Imagine for a moment a sheet of paper kept in a place where only a few privileged eyes have touched it. A message sent directly to the hearts of families, a spiritual manual with guidance for times of trial, and that these words can change the way you live your faith, protect your home, and interpret the signs of the times. Do you feel a twinge of curiosity there? Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover may surprise you and perhaps transform the way you view Mary's prophecies and messages. Medjugorje has always been a name that sparks fascination and controversy. Apparitions, visionaries, and thousands of people seeking solace and signs. But behind the public stories lie whispered secrets, accounts circulated among a select few, and, according to some, a private letter from the Virgin with specific instructions, the 7 unrevealed messages of Medjugorje. We're not talking about empty theories. We're talking about requests that touch on family protection, spiritual preparation, and how to recognize signs in the heavens and in the small things of everyday life. Have you ever experienced this? That feeling of perceiving something greater before others? Perhaps you've felt a calling to intensify your prayers at home, to care for those close to you. If so, this will resonate with you. Upon hearing about this letter, many questions arise. Why haven't these messages been made public? Who decides what the world can and cannot know? And the point that resonates most with people, what do these instructions ask us to do now, in the present, to protect our families and keep hope alive in difficult times? We don't want to fuel panic or make easy promises. We want clarity, criteria for discernment, and practical steps that anyone can apply, regardless of their spiritual tradition. The central idea is simple and powerful. The message is not just a prediction. It is an invitation to inner transformation and communal responsibility. In the following parts of this video, we'll delve into the 7 unrevealed messages of Medjugorje, carefully decoding each instruction, examining its historical and spiritual context, and offering practical guidance for spiritual and emotional preparation. I'll share stories that illustrate how these messages have touched lives, and I'll also show concrete signs that can help you distinguish a genuine warning from a mere coincidence. Whether you're seeking discernment, feeling uneasy about the signs of the times, or simply want to protect your family spiritually and practically, this content is for you. As you prepare to hear the first message, pause and reflect. What are your home's priorities? How is your prayer life, family dialogue, and attention to spiritual and material needs? Sometimes, a small adjustment in your daily routine of frank conversation, an hour of prayer together, an act of forgiveness can be the first step towards something greater. And if any instruction in this letter speaks directly to your heart, don't ignore it. Write it down, reflect, and take action. Stay with me until the end of this series. And if any part touches you, please let me know in the comments. I want to know if you felt the same calling. Now take a deep breath and get ready. Let's begin to unravel the first of the 7 unrevealed messages. The one many believe to be the most urgent and the one that can shine a light of hope where there is now fear. As you take a deep breath and prepare for this first message, I want to ask you something very simple yet powerful. If this topic resonates with you, leave a comment below with what touched you most, what feeling this idea evoked in you, or any related personal story could be the key that helps someone else understand what they're going through. Commenting isn't just about sharing a thought, it's about building a support network, transforming this space into a place where doubts meet testimonies and where the search for discernment becomes a collective journey. Your participation here is what makes this channel grow and reach more people with this type of content, allowing us to investigate further, bring real stories, and delve deeper into each message with respect and care. If for a moment you felt this letter might touch your family or someone you love, like the video. This simple gesture signals that you want more content like this, that you desire practical answers and reliable signs. And if you want to continue following this journey of revelations, subscribe to the channel. By subscribing, you help keep the mission of sharing these messages alive and building a community that prepares together with faith and responsibility. It's not just about numbers, it's about ensuring that those who need to hear this word reach us, that we can answer complex questions with more research, and bring voices that deserve to be heard. Now, with an open heart, let's delve into the first of the 7 unrevealed messages. Pay attention to the details, because what follows could change small decisions in your daily life and perhaps begin to shape a new way of protecting what matters most. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject. Medjugorje is not just a name on a map. It is the starting point of a journey that has touched the lives of thousands of people around the world. In the early 1980s, in that simple village in Bosnia and Herzegovina, young people began reporting apparitions of the Virgin Mary, stories that, because of their simplicity and constancy, attracted curious eyes and hearts eager for signs. What seemed like a local experience gained global dimensions because these apparitions were accompanied by clear messages, invitations to prayer, conversion of heart, peace, and reconciliation. These requests resonated with those seeking spiritual transformation and a change of mindset in the face of personal and collective crises. The impact was immediate. Pilgrimages, testimonies of healing or life-changing experiences, reports, and debates behind the scenes within the church and the media. It's important to understand that this story has layers. There are moving accounts of those who found new hope, and there's also an institutional layer of investigation and caution. The hidden truth some people seek is often not a secret, but discrete elements of spiritual guidance that have been preserved or interpreted differently by different communities. This creates a scenario rich in revelations and, at the same time, full of questions about authority, responsibility, and discernment. When we talk about messages public or supposedly private, we are talking about recommendations that touch on everyday decisions: how to prioritize family prayer, how to cultivate forgiveness, what kind of spiritual vigilance to exercise over our choices and attitudes. These instructions aren't technical proposals for controlling the future. They're invitations to a change in attitude that alters the way we face challenges. Think of it as a proposal for inner transformation that generates a concrete impact on the family, the community, and even the way we make decisions in the face of adversity. The human dimension of this story also deserves to be highlighted. Ordinary people who lived extraordinary experiences, testimonies that spread by word of mouth, stories of comfort in moments of despair. These details help build emotional credibility, not only because of the quantity of stories, but because of the quality of the transformation many describe. It's not just about wonder. It's about a new mindset, a small, intimate revolution that shifts priorities and strengthens bonds of care. At the same time, the behind-the-scenes footage reveals theological debates and prudence on the part of religious leaders, which only reinforces the need for a balanced perspective: faith without naivete, hope without despair, a search for signs without losing critical thinking. This is the tension that makes the story so powerful and, at the same time, so delicate. Now that we've explained the context and understood why these messages touched so many lives and sparked so much debate, the feeling is that there's something important waiting to be decoded, something that goes beyond the headlines and into the realm of practice, of daily transformation. Comment below. I'm on this journey too. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject. Imagine, for a moment, that each of the 7 unrevealed messages is like a section of a map, short, direct, and powerful enough to bring about transformation in your life and the mindset of your home. The first message would be an urgent call to family prayer. Practical instruction for restoring bonds and creating a spiritual refuge in the face of difficult decisions. The second would speak about vigilance and discernment, teaching how to identify true signs without falling into panic or hasty interpretations. The third would offer guidance on protection, simple rituals, caring practices, and concrete actions aimed at the family's well-being in times of crisis. The fourth message would address conversion of the heart, inviting a change in habits, priorities, and attitudes so that faith becomes not just a feeling, but a daily action. The fifth would open space for hope and consolation, a promise of spiritual support that offers comfort in nights of fear and uncertainty. The sixth would contain practical instructions for preparation, not only in terms of provisions, but in routines of prayer, forgiveness, and communion that have a real impact on daily life. The seventh would be a call to mission, to live the message as service, assuming responsibilities in the community and making faith an agent of change. Each of these phrases carries the feeling of revelations held for a time, small keys that can unlock wise decisions or provoke confusion depending on the context in which they are read. The beauty and the tension lies in understanding that these messages are not empty conjecture. They were interpreted by pilgrims, recorded in accounts, and discussed behind the scenes in communities, creating a human journey filled with stories of transformation, doubts, and searches for hidden truth. This emotional trailer is not intended to exhaust anything. Rather, it serves as a starting map, pointing out where to focus attention, how to prioritize changes, and what kind of discernment to apply when we encounter signs and promises. By listening to these 7 phrases, you begin to form a different mindset about spiritual security. It's not just about predicting events. It's about making decisions that affect daily life, coexistence, and a sense of purpose. Feeling impact doesn't require you to agree with everything, but it does require you to be willing to read carefully, compare accounts, and consider the practical implications because, ultimately, a revelation is only valuable if it generates real transformation in people's lives. With this overview in mind, curiosity naturally grows, and the desire to understand each message piece by piece becomes almost inevitable. Comment: this makes sense to me. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject. Close your eyes for a second and imagine the Virgin's voice arriving as a firm whisper. It's not an apocalyptic cry. It's a call of serene urgency, a tone that blends tenderness and warning. The first message, according to accounts circulating among pilgrims and scholars, begins exactly like this with a simple, concrete request, pronounced directly. gather your family in regular prayer, strengthen the bonds of the home, and make the house a place of active peace. Feel the paper under your fingers, the ink that seems to want to burn like a gentle fire. Feel the atmosphere change as people sit together to pray, as the home's mentality shifts from haste to presence. This is the immediate impact many describe. Small practices that generate great transformation. The instruction is practical. It's not just pray more. It's a roadmap of daily decisions that reorient priorities. Turning off distractions for 30 minutes at night, establishing a collective prayer before meals. Setting aside one day a week for dialogue and reconciliation among household members. Visualize a family around a table, hands held, voices low, an atmosphere of respect that changes. Future decisions: who forgives more easily, who takes care, who decides more calmly. This alters the home's internal culture, changes behaviors, and shapes a new mindset. It's a discrete transformation, more psychological and spiritual than material, but with enormous practical repercussions. In personal accounts, the warning is accompanied by sensory cues, the heavy silence before a prayer that quickly dissolves into relief. The warm feeling in the chest when an old grudge is resolved. The smell of incense or freshly baked bread, which, for many, has become a symbol of refuge and sacred routine. These images help translate the hidden truth into experiences people can touch, reminding us that revelations live not only in books, but in the routines we choose to adopt. The message demands decisions, and decisions imply action. Upon hearing this call, many families have initiated small changes that have had cumulative effects over time. There's also an implicit protective dimension to this warning. It's not about building physical walls, but about reinforcing spiritual guards. Practices of forgiveness, honesty, and mutual service that reduce vulnerabilities and build resilience. This spiritual preparation, according to those who have followed these accounts, precedes any crisis and reduces panic when difficulties arise. The journey of transformation suggested by the message blends discipline and tenderness. Discipline in routines, tenderness in relationships. It's a proposal that influences everyday decisions and, at the same time, comforts. Behind the scenes, there's debate about how to interpret each details and see it as metaphor. Others take it literally. The important thing is to understand that this initial warning has a practical and urgent nature. It doesn't call for theories, it calls for action. Now I want to delve even deeper into this topic, exploring concrete examples and stories that show how this initial message has already begun to change homes. Comment below. This makes sense to me. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject. Imagine the second message as an intimate invitation to a transformation that begins in the silence of the heart and is reflected in every daily decision. It's not a dramatic call. It's a whisper, asking for an inner conversion, a change of mindset that redefines priorities, attitudes, and the way we relate to those living under the same roof. This message, according to reports received by those who researched and lived experiences in Medjugorje, insists on a simple yet profound truth. Faith that doesn't change habits is nothing more than an idea. The conversion required there is practical, concrete, and has a direct impact on family routine. It asks us to choose what will nurture peace over fear, to prioritize reconciliation over pride, to transform small complaints into gestures of care. To better understand the tone of this instruction, imagine the voice that tenderly advises. Change first where you can, in your outlook, in your words, in your daily decisions. These aren't complicated procedures, but exercises in attention and humility that generate a compounding effect. Forgiving once isn't enough, but establishing a practice of daily forgiveness, making space for honest conversations, regulating anxiety with moments of shared silence, all of this shapes a new culture in the home. Behind the scenes, those investigating these narratives speak of people who started with small steps and saw real transformation, fewer conflicts, clearer decisions in times of crisis, and a growing sense of common purpose. Want a practical suggestion you can do today to set this transformation in motion? Stop for 5 minutes, no more is needed. Sit somewhere where you won't be interrupted. Close your eyes and take 3 deep breaths. Bring to mind a recent situation that caused discomfort. At home, observe, without judgment, what your role was in that situation. Recognize an attitude you could change and quietly formulate a simple, concrete commitment for the next day. Perhaps saying sorry to someone. Perhaps listening without interrupting for 5 minutes. Perhaps performing a small act of caring. Write this decision down on a piece of paper and leave it in a visible place. This transforms a vague intention into a decision with consequences. This practice of brief examination and daily commitment is a tool for transformation. It shifts mindset because it converts intention into habit. The message also emphasizes the power of small routines. A moment of silence in the morning, a question at the end of the day about where we failed and where we succeeded, a gesture of gratitude before meals. These routines reduce noise, increase decision clarity, and generate emotional impact. People report greater peace, less reactivity, and a sense that their home has become a practical sanctuary. Inner conversion, therefore, is not just something to keep to oneself. It is a change that requires experimentation and repetition, a gradual process that, when experienced honestly, produces tangible results. These ideas don't come as imposing dogmas, but as revelations that invite personal and collective responsibility. Transforming the home requires courage to admit mistakes, humility to seek harmony, and discipline to maintain healing rituals. With this practice in hand, feel more prepared to move forward on the journey, because the next words will delve deeper into how to discern signs and act wisely in the face of uncertainty. Write it down. I'm on this journey too. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject. When the third message, which many describe as a family protection manual, reaches the stories, it doesn't come as a magic formula, but as a set of habits and rituals that change the routine and mindset of those who practice them. According to those who heard fragments and testimonies, the instruction has a tone that's both urgent and comforting. Care for your home as you care for a sanctuary. Strengthen bonds with concrete actions, and pay attention to simple signs that we often associate with intuition. Think of a domestic scene, a mother who notices her child is quieter, a father who decides to stop work to have dinner together, a grandmother who suggests short prayers before bed. These small gestures, when repeated with intention, create emotional barriers that protect more than any physical wall. The protection suggested by the message is, therefore, relational and spiritual, a shield woven by habits. The stories circulating behind the scenes tell moving stories. Families who began practicing common prayer and noticed a reduction in conflict. Neighbors who organized to support each other during hardships. People who began asking for forgiveness and reconciling before a grudge became a catechism of bitterness. One emblematic story tells of a home where, after establishing a brief daily moment of gratitude, the atmosphere shifted from tension to cooperation. Decisions that previously generated arguments began to be made together, with more calm and less fear. These examples help translate the hidden truth into tangible impact. Protection is often a series of small decisions that combined transform family dynamics. In addition to routines of prayer and dialogue, the message highlights signs to watch for, behavioral changes in children, recurring dreams that disturb, a feeling of emotional weight that doesn't dissipate. Learning to read these signs requires discipline and attention, elements that cultivate a new mindset of care. It's like tuning an instrument. The more we practice discernment, the more sensitive our ears become to the sounds that precede a crisis. The idea is not to create panic, but to foster calm readiness. To prepare the home not as a shelter of anxiety, but as an environment where kindness and vigilance coexist. There are also concrete practices described in some accounts: setting aside a space for prayer, keeping symbolic objects that encourage remembrance of family intentions, creating quick reconciliation rituals when there are disagreements, and establishing regular moments of mutual service. These habits function as emotional protocols that gradually alter daily decisions and behaviors. Protection, then, is a loving discipline that is learned and transmitted, and its effect is cumulative. The impact appears in daily choices, in the way conflict is resolved, in the priority given to caring over selfishness. While many debate the origin and veracity of these instructions, what isn't discussed is the effect that following them produces. Families report less isolation, more solidarity, and a sense of collective purpose. This is the core of this message, not a manual for fear, but a roadmap for transformation that redefines what truly matters in household decisions. With this realization, curiosity grows and the desire to understand the practical examples intensifies, naturally guiding us to the more detailed accounts and the consequences of these choices. Comment: that makes sense to me. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject. When we talk about signs, whether in the open sky or in the small things of everyday life, we enter a territory where imagination and spirituality intertwine. And it is there that hidden truth can both illuminate and confuse. Signs appear in various forms: unexpected lights on the horizon, recurring dreams that won't leave your mind, coincidences that seem to haunt you for days, words that crop up repeatedly in conversations, or sudden intuitions that suggest a decision. The challenge is to separate what is a divine touch from a chance. This requires simple, practical criteria and, above all, a mindset of discernment that prioritizes transformation over sensationalism. First, criterion: consistency. A true sign tends to repeat itself or connect with other signs in a coherent way over time. A single light in the sky can be beautiful, but if the same type of sign reappears in dreams, in testimonies of trusted people, and coincides with an internal shift, then the likelihood of it being something significant increases. Second criterion: fruit. Observe the results the sign produces when you embrace it. Does it generate peace, generate positive change in decisions, promote reconciliation, or produce tangible spiritual fruits? if the experience amplifies fear, division, or confusion, it's a sign to step back and seek greater clarity. Third, alignment with solid ethical and spiritual principles. A sign that encourages hatred, selfish gain, or paths that hurt others can hardly be considered sacred guidance. Furthermore, there's the community criterion. Signs supported by collective discernment tend to be more reliable. Seeking the opinion of respected people of faith, reading verified reports, and considering the opinions of those who study these phenomena behind the scenes helps filter out hasty interpretations. The journey of discernment is rarely solitary. Engaging others in dialogue is a practical way to apply accountability to decisions. There's also the element of timing and coherence with one's own personal history. A sign consistent with a particular phase of life and an inner calling is more likely to be a legitimate guide. How can we practically distinguish a sign from mere coincidence? Stop, breathe, and observe. Write down what happened, when it happened, and what emotions arose. Compare it to previous events. Check if various elements converge. Pray for clarity and seek advice from someone with emotional and spiritual balance. Look for confirming signs that come not only from a desire to find meaning, but from external and internal patterns that point in the same direction. Avoid impulsive decisions based on a single intense perception. Prudence is a virtue that protects both faith and relationships. Real stories help us understand. Some have seen strange lights and, upon careful investigation, discovered that they brought families together in prayer, resulting in reconciliations that transformed decisions and priorities. On the other hand, there are reports of people who made radical decisions after isolated dreams and faced painful consequences due to a lack of verification. These narratives demonstrate the concrete impact of reading signs with discernment. When interpreted correctly, they guide. When misread, they confuse. With these assessment tools, consistency, fruitfulness, ethical alignment, community discernment, and practical verification, you gain a foundation for interpreting signs without giving in to fear or spectacle. The transformation we seek is not the result of isolated miracles, but the consequence of wise decisions made based on well-read signs, with responsibility and love. With this lens, we can now delve into more specific examples and see how, in concrete cases, small signs led to big changes. Comment: that makes sense to me. Now I want to delve even deeper into this topic. The sixth message is presented in many accounts as the most practical. It converts words into steps, truths into routine, and invites preparation that involves prayer, fasting, community, and spiritual provisions. Imagine receiving a letter that not only alerts but teaches you how to act. And each instruction is designed to affect everyday decisions, reshape the home's mindset, and generate real impact. It's not a technical list. It's a proposal for transformation that operates simultaneously in routine and soul. A kind of roadmap for those who want to live their faith as a daily practice. Not just a feeling. To make this message applicable, consider 3 concrete actions you can begin today. First, establish a daily family prayer time. Even if brief, 5 to 10 minutes of mindful presence, where everyone can speak and listen. This practice builds spiritual discipline, changes the tone of conversations, and acts as an anchor in moments of chaos. Second, incorporate regular periods of fasting or symbolic abstinence, not just related to food, but to habits that distract. Attention: turning off devices, avoiding social media for a few hours, choosing intentional silence. Fasting retrains attention and strengthens the ability to resist impulsive reactions. Third, strengthen community bonds. Exchange trusted contacts with neighbors or family friends. Arrange support meetings and share practical tasks. Community serves as a support system that increases individual resilience and reduces the risk of panicked decisions. These actions are simple, but they have a cumulative effect. Daily prayer transforms routine into presence. Fasting relearns attention control. Community offers support when difficult choices arise. Behind the scenes, those who have followed these protocols report that the combination tends to reduce panic and increase clarity in decision. The hidden truth is that spiritual preparation is as concrete as stocking up on groceries. It involves practicing habits, reinforcing rituals, and creating emotional protocols that work under pressure. Thinking about spiritual provisions is as important as thinking about physical provisions: readings that warm, music that soothes, symbols that anchor intentions. In addition to these 3 actions, the message suggests small support practices: selecting short texts for family reading, creating a box with mementos that reinforce values, coordinating care signals to identify emotional exhaustion, and establishing gratitude rituals at the end of the day. These elements act as emotional supplies that sustain the family when fatigue sets in. Practical preparation then reveals itself as a combination of techniques and attitudes. Planning is not enough. It is necessary to incorporate and transform these measures into habits. The proposed transformation is also mental. By deciding to follow simple steps, The mindset shifts from reactive to proactive, and decisions are made with more calm and purpose. This is the real impact of the sixth message. Empower, not alarm. Teach, not just predict. When the family adopts recurring practices of mutual care, revelations cease to be abstractions and become loving procedures that change daily life. Now I want to delve even deeper into this topic, looking at concrete examples of how these routines have changed homes and which decisions have had the greatest impact on the journey of those who adopted them. Comment below. I'm on this journey. 2. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject. The seventh message appears in the accounts as the apex, the call that transforms warning into purpose and anxiety into mission. It's not an empty promise or an encouragement to isolate oneself. It's a clear invitation to be a light wherever you are, to take on responsibilities that go beyond your inner circle, and to translate your faith into actions with a real impact on the community. Imagine someone who, after experiencing the first 6 messages, prayer, conversion, protection, discernment, consolation, and preparation, begins to realize that their personal life has been reshaped to serve others. This is the essence of the call, to move beyond mere reaction and enter a dynamic of service that alters decisions, shapes mindsets, and triggers collective transformation. The tone of this instruction is simultaneously urgent and calm. It doesn't call for grand gestures, but rather a continuous commitment to small actions that add up. Behind the scenes, there are reports of people who, inspired by these messages, have organized local support groups, mutual aid initiatives, and listening spaces for those suffering. This has generated a multiplier effect. The hidden truths to be a secret and becomes everyday practice, and the impact spreads. A neighborhood that organizes to care for the elderly, a family that opens its home to welcome someone in crisis, a community that promotes reconciliation meetings. These are examples of how the mission can manifest itself in concrete and transformative ways. Taking on this active role involves important decisions, prioritizing the common good over individual comfort, cultivating compassion as a habit, and creating routines that sustain service. The message calls for the development of humble leadership, education, and care, and the creation of networks that enable rapid responses in times of need. It's a shift in mindset from a passive consumer of spirituality to an agent who contributes, organizes, and protects. And this transition generates practical consequences: more cooperation, less isolation, and a greater capacity to face crises as a collective. There's also an aspect of ethical preparation. The mission demands that actions be guided by truth, justice, and responsibility. This isn't about emotional activism, it's about discipline, consistency, and integrity in daily decisions. This means, for example, maintaining transparency in community actions, prioritizing those most in need, and preventing good intentions from becoming a spectacle. According to reports, the most lasting initiatives are those that combine prudence with courage, planning with openness to charitable improvisation when the situation demands it. When the community adopts this stance, the impact reverberates beyond the immediate. It transforms local culture, strengthens intergenerational bonds, and changes expectations about what it means to live as a family and in society. The mission thus becomes a path of personal transformation that produces collective fruits. And this is the most radical promise of the seventh message, that faith, when embodied, becomes an instrument of restoration and hope. Feeling this calling can be unsettling, but it can also be empowering. It is a challenge of constant decisions and generous giving. With this understanding in mind, we realize that every small choice counts, and that the journey of preparation takes on new meaning, not just surviving difficult times, but building, together, a more supportive future. Write it down. I'm on this journey too. Now I want to delve even deeper into this topic. As I recap the 7 messages, notice how each one forms a thread of the same tapestry. First, the urgent call to family prayer, which requires presence and discipline to transform routines. But this is only the first part. What follows is even more urgent. Next, the call to inner conversion, which challenges us to change our mindset, review decisions, and transform intentions into concrete habits. But this is only the first part. What follows is even more urgent. The third message addresses family protection, proposing rituals and signs of care that build emotional and spiritual resilience. But this is only the first part. What follows is even more urgent. The fourth alerts us to signs in the heavens and in small things, inviting discernment to separate coincidence from true guidance. But this is only the first part. What follows is even more urgent. The farm offers solace and hope, teaching practices that nourish the soul when spiritual hunger strikes. But this is only the first part. What follows is even more urgent. The sixth part converts messages into practical preparation and prayer, fasting, community, and spiritual provisions, proposing clear steps for daily life. But this is only the first part. What follows is even more urgent. Finally, the seventh part reveals the call to mission, to be a light in the community. transforming care into service, and enabling faith to produce a concrete impact on the lives of others. By placing these 7 ideas side by side, the hidden truth that often seems nebulous gains shape. These are not just prophecies to fear, but a roadmap for personal and collective transformation. From a personal perspective, this sequence matters because it shifts the matrix of our decisions from reaction to preparation, from isolation to community commitment. In my own journey, studying accounts and talking to people who have gone through these experiences, I've seen that the greatest changes come not from grand gestures, but from small, repeated decisions, choosing to forgive instead of holding on to resentment, taking time to listen to those in need, creating a small ritual that reminds the family of what is essential. This is what makes a real impact, a renewed mindset that guides practical choices. Behind the scenes, the debate over disclosure and caution reveals a legitimate concern about hasty interpretations, and this prudence should teach us to value collective discernment and ethical responsibility when dealing with revelations. Turning information into action requires 3 simple steps: listening with humility, testing with discipline, and acting with courage. Listening with humility means accepting that not everything will be immediately clear. Testing with discipline involves adopting small practices and measuring their impact on family life. Acting with courage requires prioritizing the common good. In daily decisions, when these steps become routine, the journey ceases to be merely theoretical and becomes something lived, with tangible effects on domestic peace, community solidarity, and the ability to cope with crises. If these messages touched you, subscribe to receive future videos. Here we share signs, testimonies, and practical ways to live this faith. Write in the comments, "This message was for me," if you felt something right now, and click on the video below to see how to practice the Virgin's first instruction today. Now, with this map in hand, we remain attentive to the stories that illustrate each point and to the decisions that truly transform. If you've made it this far, thank you for investing your time in this conversation. It already says a lot about how important this topic is to you. If you want to continue receiving research, stories, and practices that truly help transform your routine and protect your loved ones, subscribe to the channel. That way I know I need to bring you more content with care, depth, and practical examples. If this message touched you in any way, write in the comments, "I'm with you until the end." I love reading these words, and they show that we're building a community of people who choose to act with faith and responsibility. If something here resonated with you, leave a like. This simple gesture signals to me that it's worth continuing to investigate and share more testimonies. There's a video here that complements this topic. Well, click and stay with me there to see stories and practical steps that help you apply all of this in your daily life. Thank you for being on this journey.